Have you ever felt pressure to open up to someone close to you and tell them things about yourself that you'd actually rather not? Have you ever felt that someone close to you is not being open or open enough and telling you things about themselves that are very personal and even private? And have you felt a sense of unfairness or inequality when you have disclosed fairly intimate things about yourself to someone close to you, but they haven't reciprocated and done the same? Disclosing things that are of an intimate and private nature is what vulnerability is about, because it exposes you to the possibility of being attacked or harmed or exploited in some way. In this podcast, I'd like to talk about vulnerability, and I want to set the scene for us, so to speak, by quoting from A Course in Miracles. If you haven't heard of A Course in Miracles, it is a book of psycho-spiritual teachings and a workbook of 365 lessons or practices. And the opening statement in A Course in Miracles is a bold but profoundly true statement that can really shock a first-time reader. And even if you have gone through the book several times, that statement can still shock you into an immediate realization of what is real and true. And this is that statement: nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Okay, so why am I bringing this up? Because if we ever feel threatened, exposed, or taken advantage of, we can be sure that we're not standing on the ground of the real and the true. Because as it says in A Course in Miracles, but more importantly, as our own experiences in observing the mind will show us, nothing real can be threatened. So, when it comes to vulnerability, if we either feel the need to pressure someone to be vulnerable to us, or if we find that we are being pressured to be vulnerable to another, it's important to see what is actually going on. Why do I need to be vulnerable to you? Why do you need to be vulnerable to me? What exactly do we gain from this, and who or what exactly gains? And just to force the issue even further, does love require vulnerability? In other words, is my love for you conditioned on your being exposed, your sharing your weaknesses, your faults, your dark secrets with me? You know, when we demand vulnerability from another person, is it because we feel comfortable and stronger and perhaps even emboldened by their weakness? Their admission of their flaws? We might say, yeah, well, because that's being honest, and if we're serious about our relationship, we shouldn't keep secrets from each other, and we should be willing to admit our flaws to each other. Really? Does love really demand this? Or does love, which by definition is unconditional, accept and trust in the freedom of choice that you have, that I have, to disclose or not? If I need you to admit your weakness to me so that I can trust you, I'm not being loving. On the contrary, I am using your admission of your weakness as a condition for my love. And in such a case, it would not be love at all. Rather, it would be a trade agreement between egos. So, am I suggesting then that we should be dishonest and withhold disclosing certain information? No, not at all. Because you see, for me, being honest is not about disclosing everything about myself, but it does mean being honest about anything I choose to disclose. You know, when you take your shopping to the person at the checkout, do you tell them everything about yourself, or even everything relevant to your shopping, like say why you chose this brand of coffee over that one, or why you're choosing not to use a self-serve checkout? Of course you don't. So does that make you dishonest? Of course not. So, as I said, as far as I'm concerned, being honest is not about telling someone everything about yourself, and especially the weak and flawed parts about yourself, but it is about being truthful about the things that you do choose to share. Okay, I've said it twice now. So in terms of vulnerability, if I feel that I cannot trust you and therefore love you because you refuse to be vulnerable to me, I'm making my love conditional. In which case, as I said, it's not love at all, but a trade agreement between egos. Now, let's look at possible reasons why someone may choose not to be vulnerable with us. Actually, let's pause a moment. Let's look at my reasons. For one thing, I know that any flaws or weaknesses that I perceive in myself have nothing to do with who and what I truly am, which is love itself, life itself. These flaws and weaknesses are to do with my ego, which is a conditioned state of mind that is unaware of my true nature. So, why would I want to focus on them and share these untruths, have a trade agreement using these untruths about myself with you? Secondly, if by sharing my so-called weaknesses and flaws with you, it means that I can buy your trust and your love, is that the kind of relationship I want with you? One founded on the conditional provision of love? One in which we, romantically, I suppose some people might think of it that way, share our wounds? Oh, please. Now, I want to assure you that in saying this, I'm not suggesting that we should never share our stories, and especially the ones that are painful. It can be extremely useful. But I believe it should be done in a safe and nurturing space where we freely choose to share in a loving way. What do I mean by that? I mean this: I share because putting this out in the open helps me feel free, a little less burdened. In this way, I'm caring for myself lovingly. I share because perhaps someone else who's going through something similar might be consoled by knowing that others too experience this. And so in this way, I'm sharing for others. I'm caring for others lovingly. I don't share so that you will trust me more. I don't share so that you will love me more. I don't share so that you will feel stronger because I'm weak. I don't share to show you how capable I am despite my dark secrets or ugly stories. And I don't share because I think you need all that detailed information for you to help and support me. And another reason why I might choose not to share is that I may not feel that you are the best person to share my stuff with. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't love you or love you less than the person I am willing to share with. On the contrary. In fact, you might be the person I hold closest to my heart, but that doesn't necessarily make you the best person to hear what I might have to say at this moment. Not that there's anything wrong or not good enough about you, but just that for me, in this moment, you may not be the one with whom I wish to share this. And you know, if that's the choice that someone close to us makes, it's important that we don't take it personally, that instead we trust the love we have, which is what is real, reminding ourselves that we want the highest good for both of us and anyone else concerned, because anything else, and we're in the ego's domain and under its control. And finally, a really big reason, and it's a really big one, in fact it's the most important one, why I would choose not to share, is that I've found that often whatever it is that I'm most concerned about, most fearful or ashamed of, most rattled by, is best put under the supreme, loving, unconditional light of love, which is what it is in the inner practice of really paying attention, or which some might call mindfulness. Because this practice allows me to be peacefully present to the situation or problem or fear or guilt or shame or whatever troubling emotion it might be. It shows me in an undeniable way that I am my true self, and that my true self is still alive and intact no matter what storms are raging inside me or around me. This, by far is the most powerful way I have of responding to these painful or troubling states. It's powerful because the grace of revelation, of seeing the emptiness of such states, the unrealness, the untruthfulness of them, comes from within me and not something or someone else who, in the first instance, may not always be there or even capable of helping, and secondly, who can never provide the fullness of dissolution or healing that really paying attention or mindfulness makes possible. So to finish, let me encourage you to consider why you either need someone to be vulnerable to you, or why you choose to be vulnerable to someone. I'm reminded of something that I once heard my children's martial arts sensei say to a group of kids he was training, because one of them had poked fun at another, and it made everybody laugh, and some admittedly quite nervously. But he took that opportunity to teach a lesson. He told the group, don't try to make yourself big by making someone else small. And I've never forgotten that. And in the case of vulnerability, I think you could put it like this. Don't rely on someone else's weakness or guilt or shame to feel better about yourself. And so I wish you much love, and may your heart beat with the rhythms of peace. Hey everybody, I know it's so easy to forget, I do it myself so often. But please, if you did like this video, do hit the like button, do subscribe, do share, and most of all, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much.